Definitely considered to be part of the Jewish community.
The great eye-opener was the fact that for the world had to face for the first time that here was the oldest Hebraic culture in the world, exposed to the world, and these people were Ethiopians. They were black, you know. And this like shook up the world.
Moses BUJE understands about religious shakeups. His came when his Mississippi-born father began a quest for truth. That search led him to hear the ideas of W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson. It also drove him to read everything he could put his hands on.
You know, his consciousness had been heightened. And as his consciousness heightened, he began to, as we say, seek, you know. You know, a lot of people don't look at that acronym, ASK, and it's as we say, it's ask, seek, and then knock, all right? Yeah. So he began to ask, seek, and knock, and he come in one day and he said, you know, we can't eat any more pork.
Somebody must have tried to talk him out of the direction that he was headed.
My own mother.
Moses BUJE's mother found a group of men holding the answer her husband sought. Such names as Rabbi Casey, Rabbi Wentworth Matthews, Hananiah Israel, and others had held Bible comprehension classes in the cities of New York and Chicago for years. They saw themselves as legitimate Israelites, and they claimed Abraham as their father. Moses says they don't use the name Jews because they have no desire to join any recognized group.
To us, the acceptance by mainstream or mainline Judaism it really is non-essential.
Non-essential and most likely not extended by either the Sephardic, Asiatic Mideast Jews or their European counterparts.
Any human being can claim to have live and accept Judaic concepts. To be Jewish is a matter of more of a regimented aspect. You cannot pretend to be unless you are, but you can follow the teachings of it.
But the Falasha, or the Beta Israelites, do have accepted Jewish status.
When a lot of the Jewish scholars went into Ethiopia and found the Falasha, one of the things that they asked the Falasha was, where do you come from? And they usually all they go to is Solomon, the connection between Solomon and Sheba and things like that, and all the myth that's around that. But the Falasha asked them, said, well, didn't you know that Abraham was a black man?
Science seems to support the Falasha claim. As we noted in Part 3 of African American Culture, A Second Look, if we acknowledge the first men had black skin, it seems rational to also say the first men to found the world's ancient kingdoms also may have had black skin.
It's become a standard racist argument that civilization begins in Sumer. But even if it did begin in Sumer, you're still talking about black people.
Fine.
The Sumerians called themselves the black-headed people to distinguish themselves from all other people.
Doesn't that simply mean their hair?
No. It said black-headed, and you could argue that point, but then you have to put it in conjunction with other things. Now, the skeletal remains have been removed from most of the major royal cemeteries in early Sumer. For example, you have one in a city called Ur, that's mentioned in the Bible as Ur the Chaldees. That's where Abraham is supposed to come from. You have them in a place called Ubad. You have them in a place called Uruk. You have them in Jimnit Nasser. You have them in a place called Kish. Now, all these major skeletal remains are identical with the skeletal remains of African people in other parts of Africa, particularly Egypt. And we know the Egyptians were black. We know that they were black people because their oldest deity in Sumer was known as Anu. Anu was a name that you find with thriving black populations all over the world. For example, the Nubians or the Sudanese people that produced the Egyptian civilization call themselves the Anu Seti. In Egypt, you have a group of people called the Anu. The earliest Egyptians are called Anu, A-N-U. Even in Arabia, you have the Anu. So you have these Anu populations wherever you find black people. You have the fact that they worship female goddesses. This is totally unlike European and Mongoloid civilizations because their emphasis was patriarchal. In Africa, you have a matriarchal, a matrilineal philosophy. So you have the skeletal remains, which are identical to other African people. You have the fact that they call themselves the black-headed people to distinguish themselves from other people. You have eyewitness accounts of people that went to Sumer and described these people as having black skins and woolly hair. You have the worship of female deities. You have the oldest deity being Anu, and you go on and on. Now, you could probably argue with either one of those points individually, but when you put those together as a body of evidence, there's no doubt that those were black people there.
Both Moses BUJE and Ephraim Frankel say the Ethiopian Jews airlifted to Israel have taken jobs and begun new lives among their modern Jewish brothers. Both men also say the Ethiopian Jews highlight the need for all ethnic groups to know their history. Moses says as African Hebrews begin to trace their lineage and do more research, they can more effectively combat what he calls deliberate lies and misrepresentations about Africans in the Bible. Lies such as God cursed Ham.
If you look in the scriptures, you look in Genesis, and when you have this so-called curse that's put out on Ham, okay, Ham did nothing wrong. It was supposed to be cursed be Canaan.
Frankel supports the idea of ethnic knowledge because he says everyone can benefit from it.
And I think there is a growing awareness and a sense of pride in the community. And I think this will lead to the development of schools that serve that need. Okay. And I think it's part of American society. I have a right to my heritage, as you have a right to your heritage, as long as I don't superimpose my heritage upon you.
But from its first show of strength, the Christian church did force its European-rooted heritage on any not inclined to join or not strong enough to resist.
Once the Europeans, particularly the Romans, stopped killing Christians and became Christians, they had embraced a religion that they couldn't manage then and can't manage now because they do not believe in it. It is alien to that temperament.
Dr. Frank Harrington, pastor of Atlanta's and America's largest Presbyterian congregation, semi-agrees. He says not only do most of our Christian images lack accuracy, but they lack strength as well.
We tend to view whatever we believe through our own perspective. And I think we often portray the truth in our own terms, so that certainly the interpretation of Christianity has been colored, as it were, by the culture and the historic context in which it was being practiced and believed.
I was really an adult before I saw a picture of a dark-skinned Jesus.
Did it shock you?
That shocked me, and it amazed me, and almost for a moment I wanted to contradict that picture.
Why?
It was ingrained in my mind, in the fabrics of my mind, that Jesus was a white man. He was a splitting image of a white man. And I felt that he was white, only white. And that has controlled us. It controlled black people. That to see a white Jesus, to see even if you see pictures of the Last Supper before Christ went to the cross, before he was betrayed by Judah, and you see sitting around him all white faces, and but we didn't know any better. We were taught, we were told, and we were showed that, and it's like we were psychologically controlled to believe that.
Well, music is inseparable from our religious worship.
Nigerian native Dr. Komla Amarko says he doesn't have pleasant memories of Christian control in his homeland. Christian, Western, and white became synonymous with good, while African, ethnic, and black meant all things bad. He says Africans all over the world have to make a conscious effort to end those stereotypes.
When the missionaries came to Africa and told us to destroy all of those things, it was wrong. was wrong, because when we took their religion, we changed it. We changed it. We changed it